For our second analysis, we will look at another chorale setting, this time by Johann Sebastian Bach. Here are two phrases from Nun danket alle Gott. We are in the key of A major. The melody starts on Sol and descends to Do. The first phrase is essentially the note Sol with an upper neighbor. The second phrase expresses the descent. In the first phrase, the division level movement is in the bass, but the harmonic movement does not change with every note. The excerpt starts with a root position tonic as an anacrusis. If you look at the first measure, in the first two beats, all of the notes except for one belong to the tonic harmony, and in the second half of the measure, all of the notes except for one belong to the subdominant harmony. The two notes that do not belong to their immediate environment are passing tones, approached by a step and resolved by a step in the same direction. The final chord of the first phrase is a root position tonic. The antecedent ends with a plagal cadence. Before moving on to the consequent phrase, let's talk about the moving bass line for a moment. On beat 2 and beat 4, the voicing is apparently in first inversion with the third of the chord in the bass. At this level of detail, that is exactly correct. However, I would parenthesize these chords as they are more ornamental than structural. If I had to choose only one bass note for the first half of the measure and only one bass note for the second half of the measure, I would pick A and D. In both cases, these notes are the first and last in the pattern, and they occur on the accented beats 1 and 3. They are the lowest sounding notes of the harmony, and they take up the most duration, totaling a quarter note value of the duration of the harmony. All of the evidence suggests that these are root position harmonies. This is one of the critical skills of music analysis, separating embellishment from structure, and creating valid, convincing arguments to support your interpretation. Notice that the interval between the alto and the soprano for the first three chords is a perfect fifth, but we do not have parallel perfect fifths because that is an error of parallel motion, and neither one of the voices has moved. They have simply added rhythm to their assigned pitch in the harmony. The first three chords of the consequent phrase are analyzed 1, 5, 6, 5, 1. Beat 3 of the penultimate measure is a root position 5 triad with a passing seventh in the bass, resolving to a 1-6 triad, the chordal seventh moving down by step as it must. The second half of beat 4 is a root position tonic triad. Since this is the lowest sounding bass note of the harmony, and the ear will hear the do, sol, do pattern in the bass at the cadence, I would interpret this beat as structurally being in root position. The last 16th note of the melody in this measure, the D, is an incomplete upper neighbor, or an escape tone, approached by a step and resolved by a leap. Once again, the dramatic rhythmic change occurs at the cadence, the consequent ending with a perfect authentic cadence. Let's look at how Bach embellishes and draws attention to the dominant harmony at the cadence. On the downbeat of the final measure, Bach writes two E's, a B, and an A. The two E's are the root of the 5 chord, and the B is the fifth. The third of the chord, the G sharp, does not arrive in the alto voice until beat 2. The A on the downbeat is not part of the chord. It is prepared by being part of the previous chord. The note following the A, the F sharp, is not a chord tone and cannot be the resolution of the A. The resolution of the A must be the G sharp. The intervening F sharp is a lower neighbor to the G sharp. If we remove the embellishing F sharp on the weak division, the A is simply a suspension. We label the intervals of the suspension and its resolution above the bass note, in this case an A moving to a G sharp over an E, so it is a 4/3 suspension. Now, A being the upper neighbor and F sharp being the lower neighbor to the G sharp, Bach combines the suspension with a double neighbor or changing tone. In the tenor, the D is the chordal seventh of the dominant and passes to the third of the final tonic. However, so much attention is drawn to this note by embellishment, I would consider beat 2 to be a dominant seventh chord. The D is ornamented by its lower neighbor, C sharp, and it arrives on a weak division before the beat, an anticipation. Bach layers embellishments to draw more attention to the dominant harmony and increase the expectation of the following and final tonic. Notice that the antecedent and consequent phrases are completely different. As a pair, we consider these phrases to be contrasting. A structure of two parts is called binary.